we want to make sure before we start writing sentences that we are writing to be read, not ignored. We talked about this a minute ago, and Kathy, feel free to chime in, but that brand voice is really important and it defines how you speak to the reader. So you need to ensure that your topic and how well, you should have already made sure the topic is good in the planning stage, but we need to make sure that how we're approaching this topic is really going to relate to what the audience needs to know, right? If it's not actually solving a problem for them, it's not giving them information, it's not useful to them, genuinely useful, then you failed. And it's just not going to work. Kathy, you got any thoughts? I know you do.
I do not. I mean, very specifically, I think one of the big things in just listening to the things that
Oops.
a lot of times, and everybody has different skill sets. So when Micah said that his spelling was abysmal, he meant it.
I really do, guys. I'm bad.
But he also used a couple of words when he was talking that I would, it's like, this isn't a question of how smart Micah is. I mean, Mike is on the ball, and he's got the vocabulary that makes me sometimes have to go look something up. On the flip side, I am a very technical typewriter. I am a very factual A, B, C, D, and I have a real hard time with the fun slant and the exciting slant. And seriously, that's not even to the blog point, but if I'm writing an email, getting the subject exciting enough for somebody to look at, what's inside the email may be awesome. And so, I don't know, I just feel like the keys to everything you're talking about with the outline and with writing to who your audience is, because
focus on the user, really. It's what it boils down to. Focus on the user.
Yeah. So, I mean, so that's my struggle. My struggle is getting it to the level that the end user is going to be excited, because I'm used to writing to a different audience.
Yeah, and I mean, for those of you who don't know, Kathy comes from corporate world, and she used to train big teams, and she has a lot of very high level experience in some large companies, and writing training manuals and SOPs and things like that was one of your fortes. And I actually have a somewhat similar background, not exactly the same, but I was in the military for a couple of years, and my job required these just astronomically precise SOPs. And we literally had a library. They looked like encyclopedias, and every single thing that we did, we had to follow step by step by step by step by step by step. And I mean, it was just, you guys remember Ben Stein from the '90s, and it's just that very monotone. Please check. It was like that. I mean, these things were so boring, but it got the job done, and it made sure it was consistent. So we want to make sure when we're doing blogs, we want to handle that completely differently, right? We need to be informative. We need that outline to give them what they need to do, right? The outline needs to be as factually complete as an encyclopedia would, or an SOP or a manual. Where we're going to change that voice and make it fun is how we write the sentences. Right. That's how we define that tone and brand and stuff. And I'm going to give you some tips once we get into the writing the first draft section. But at this point, you should have a factually, technically, but still interesting outline for your content. And it doesn't matter if you're giving someone comparing two brands of cameras, or you're telling them the 5 best places to travel, or there's all kinds of different titles where listicles, which is like the 5 best or 7 best or whatever, or 7 newest things, or 5 hottest trends or whatever, some sort of number, and you're listing things out. That's called a listicle. You got verses where X versus Y. There's also, I mean, just many other types of things. How to's, why should I, how do I. Basically, think about this, and we talked about this in the plan stage, but 70% of all searches on Google are 4 or more words. And growingly, every day they just on average get longer and longer. People are typing in questions, full sentences to Google. So it's not really about a keyword anymore. It's a key phrase. It's a question. It's a, how do I do this? How do I solve this problem? What's better for my life? Just, I commonly do searches that are 10 to 20 words in Google, and I get my answer pretty right away. So that grows every day. Another random tip, Kathy, I'm not even sure if you know this. I read a stat from Google earlier this year. They said about 50% of every search that happens every day is a search they've never seen before.
No, I didn't
You know,
know.
they get billions of searches, right? And their algorithm has to be able to figure out what someone's doing. That you might have a million of the same essential search, but there's slight misspellings or shifting of words and things like that. But think about that. With every possible variable of length of sentence, how in depth it is, different tenses of words and things like that, half of every search is a search that's never ever been searched before. That's crazy.